As that of self-pollination, there are several factors promoting the occurrence of cross-pollination in plants. Some plants like calotropes have mechanical barriers on the stigmatic surface which avoid self-pollination, and this condition is known as hercogamy. In dichogamous flowers, the anther and stigma of the flower matures at different times to avoid self-pollination. It is of two types, namely protoandry and protogyny. The maize stands as an example of proto-androus flower in which the male pod matures first. The male pod at the top of the plant is called as the tassel, and the female pod at the base is called as the corp. The corp produces lengthy thread-like pink-colored stigmas called as silk, which becomes receptive to the pollen grains on maturity. Once the flower gets fertilized, the pinkish silk turns to brown color and eventually gets dried. The pearl millet stands as an example of protogynous flower in which the female pods matures first. The anthers are the latecomer and misses the opportunity of fertilizing its own flower. Some species of brassica are said to be self-incompatible, since even when the mature pollen falls on the receptive stigma of the same flower, it fails to bring about fertilization. The anthers of some plants under certain conditions fails to produce functional pollen, and this condition is called as male sterility. Such plants can set seeds only through cross-pollination. Certain species are dioecious in nature, that is, the male and female flowers are located on the different plants, indicating the need of cross-pollination. In case of papaya, the male flowers are tubular in nature and bears functional pollen and not the fruits. The fruits are produced only in the female plants. The female flowers resembles the shape of the fruit, bearing receptive stigmas. The flowers of some plants like brinjal and pomegranate have different lengths of stamens and styles, so that self-pollination is not possible. The agents responsible for cross-pollination in angiosperms may be biotic or abiotic. Wind pollination is the best example of abiotic pollination, in which the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma is achieved through the agency of wind. The flowers produce numerous stamens bearing a huge quantity of pollen grains which are disseminated by wind. Wind pollinated flowers are small, colorless, odorless and nectarless, as there is no need of attracting pollinators. Hydrophily is a mode of pollination in which the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma is through the agency of water. The hydrophilous flowers have unwettable floral pods including the pollen and the stigma. The stigma are long and sticky, facilitating hydrophily. The pepper flower is pollinated by water from morning dew, and hence it is also hydrophilous. However, most angiosperms are pollinated by insects. The common insect pollinators are honeybees, wasps, flies, beetles, butterflies, and moths. Some plants have small flowers blooming in bunches to attract the insects. These flowers produce pleasant smell and sweet fragrance to attract insects from long distance. Most of the entomophilous flowers are large, brightly colored, and showy to attract the insect pollinators. Some flowers have tubular corolla with special bright markings to indicate the place of nectar production. In order to reach that spot, the insect must slide through the staminal column, collecting hundreds of pollen grains on its surface. After the feast, it leaves the pre-collected pollen grains on the stigmatic surface. In some plants, extra floral pods gets enlarged and become attractive to the pollinators. In case of bougainvillea, the bracts become enlarged with various attractive bright colors, while the true flower remains silent at the center. In case of Euphorbia pulcherrima, the leaves around the cyathium inflorescence are brightly colored, and they also possess nectar-producing glands very close to the flowers. When the insect feeds on the nectar, it also pollinates the flower. The pollinators are active at the dawn when the flowers are just open. The honeybees, being large in population, pollinates most of the flowers. The sunflower lives in close association with the honeybees. The composite flower produces numerous small florets which shines against the sun rays to attract the pollinators. While tasting the nectar, the honeybees brush against the anther, collecting pollen grains on its surface. The pollen falls on the stigma of the flower, which the bee visits next. The sunflower is now fertilized. The bees are colorblind for the red as they use ultraviolet radiation for their observations. Here comes the wasp in action. The blister bees feeds on the pollen grains and other floral pods. At the same time, they pollinate the flowers. As like many butterflies, the monarch butterflies also pollinate flowers. They use their long proboscis to feed on the nectar deep inside the flower. While they do so, the pollen grains get attached to their proboscis as well as their legs. It transfers the pollen when they feed on another flower. Certain plants like lucine have waxy coating on their anthers, and hence the pollen grains cannot be carried away by the wind. But when the butterflies walk over the flower, While feeding, it disrupts the waxy coating, thereby facilitating pollen transfer through wind. Once the sun sets at the dusk, another group of pollinators becomes active. The moths are attracted by the strong perfume of the flower, which opens during the night time. They pollinate these flowers in the same way as the butterfly does. Certain birds act as pollinators. Bird-pollinated flowers are mostly red in color. The hummingbird lives in close association with the heliconia flower. These flowers produces juicy nectar, which is the favorite food of the hummingbird. The common bird pollinators are sunbird, crow, bulbul, parrot, flower peckers, and minnows. After the sun hides behind the West Mountains, the nocturnal flying mammals wake up from their day sleep. Chirotrophily is a mode of pollination performed by bats. The bats transports pollen grains to long distance, sometimes over 30 kilometers. The flowers they visit are large and have strong scent. They also produce abundant pollen grains and secrete more nectar. Bats are the only available pollinators for many xerophytes, which opens their flower only at the night time. Homo sapiens started pollinating flowers several hundred years ago in the name of plant breeding. They adopted several techniques like root pulling and head rubbing to supplement the pollination process. They produce hybrid plants by emasculation and dusting technique. In this, they collect pollen grains from a desirable male plant and dust it over the pre-emasculated flower, which acts as female. They have created wide variation in the genetic composition of the plant, which may take thousands of years if it needs to be occurred naturally. A factor of chance is always involved for successful cross-pollination. These plants spend a lot of energy and food materials to pay the pollinators just to ensure variation in plants through genetic recombination for producing superior progenies with novel characters like resistant to biotic and abiotic stresses.